Junie's Book Nook. Don't forget to subscribe. Pete the Cat and His Magic Sunglasses by Kimberly and James Dean. Published by Harper. Pete the Cat did not feel happy. Pete had never, ever been grumpy before. Pete had the blue cat blues. Then, as if things were not bad enough, along came Grumpy Toad. Grumpy Toad was never happy. He always wore a frown. But Grumpy Toad was not grumpy today. He said, "These cool blue magic sunglasses make the blues go away. They help you see things in a whole new way." Pete put on the cool blue magic sunglasses. He looked all around. Right on! The birds are singing, the sky is bright, the sun is shining. I'm feeling all right. Pete thanked Grumpy Toad for the cool blue magic sunglasses. He went on his way, and soon he saw Squirrel. Squirrel did not look happy. Pete said, "What's wrong, Squirrel?" "I'm so mad. Nothing is going my way. I only found one acorn today." Pete said, "Try these cool blue magic sunglasses. They help you see things in a whole new way." Squirrel put on the cool blue magic sunglasses and looked all around. "Awesome! The birds are singing, the sky is bright, the sun is shining. I'm feeling all right." Pete said goodbye to Squirrel and continued on his way. Soon he saw his friend Turtle. Turtle did not look happy. "What's wrong, Turtle?" Pete asked. "I'm so frustrated. Nothing is going my way. I am all upside down today." Pete said, "Try these cool blue magic sunglasses. They help you see things in a whole new way." Turtle put on the cool blue magic sunglasses and looked all around. Far out! The birds are singing, the sky is bright, the sun is shining. I'm feeling all right. Pete kept rolling along until he saw Alligator. Alligator did not look happy. "What's wrong, Alligator?" Pete asked. "I'm so sad. Nothing is going my way. No one wants to play with me today." Pete said, "Try these cool blue magic sunglasses. They help you see things in a whole new way." Alligator put on the cool blue magic sunglasses and looked all around. "Rockin'! The birds are singing, the sky is bright, the sun is shining. I'm feeling all right." Pete was rolling along and feeling all right when suddenly he fell back. The cool blue magic sunglasses went crack. Uh-oh! Pete didn't know what to do without those sunglasses. Just then, Pete looked up at the tree. Wise old owl said, "Pete, you don't need magic sunglasses to see things in a new way. Just remember to look for the good in every day." Pete looked around without his sunglasses. Too cool! The birds are singing, the sky is bright, the sun is shining. We're feeling all right. Pete the Cat. Pete at the Beach by James Dean. Published by Harper. It is a hot day. Pete the cat goes to the beach with his mom and his brother, Bob. "Let's go in the water," Bob says. Maybe later," says Pete. Bob likes to surf. He rides the big waves. It looks like fun. "I'm hot," says Pete. "Go in the water," says Mom. "Maybe later," says Pete. Pete makes a sandcastle. His mom helps him dig. Here comes a big wave, and there goes Pete. Oh no! Where did his sandcastle go? Bob rides a big wave. "Wow!" says Pete. "That looks like fun!" Pete and his mom take a walk. They find seashells. They see a crab. Pete's feet get wet. His feet feel cool. The rest of him is hot. It is time for lunch. Pete eats a sandwich. He drinks lemonade. The sun is very hot, and Pete is very, very hot. Bob is wet and cool. "Let's play ball," says Pete. "No thanks," says Bob. "I want to surf." Pete throws the ball. His mom catches it. "Let's get our feet wet," says Mom. "Well, okay," says Pete. The water is cool. It feels good. Pete goes in deeper. Bob waves to Pete. "I want to show you how to surf," he yells. Pete does not say maybe later. He says, "Let's do it." "Lie on the board," says Bob. Pete lies on the board. "Paddle," says Bob. Pete paddles out. He waits for a big wave. Then Pete falls down. It was scary, but it did not hurt. "Try again later," says Bob. Pete wants to try again now. Pete lies down again. He paddles out and waits. Here comes a wave. Pete stands up. This time he rides the wave. "Good job," says Bob. Pete wants to surf all day. Bob does too. So they take turns. Pete and Bob rock and roll with the waves. What a great day. It is okay to be afraid, but it is more fun to surf. Pete the Cat, Firefighter Pete by James Dean. Published by Harper Festival. "We are going on a class trip today," says Principal Nancy. She leads the class to a bright yellow bus. Everyone climbs on board. "I wonder where we are going," says Pete. They are going to visit the firehouse today. The bus parks next to the bright red firehouse. Pete and his classmates are excited. The firehouse is huge. It's so big it can hold 2 long red fire trucks and all of the firefighters' equipment. The firefighters show the kids around. They give everyone a turn to ring the old brass fire bell outside the firehouse. Then all the kids take turns sliding down the firefighter's pole. Whee! Callie yells as she glides down. The firefighters allow the kids to try on their gear. Firefighters wear a lot of equipment. First, Pete puts on the heavy black overalls. Then he steps into the tall black boots. A firefighter helps Pete put on the heavy yellow jacket. Finally, they place a hard black helmet on Pete's head. All this gear is very heavy. Pete can barely move. The firefighters allow the kids to explore one of the fire trucks. Callie sits in the driver's seat. She presses the horn. It's so loud that all the kids cover their ears. Then Pete turns on the sirens and lights. The sirens blare. The lights flash red and yellow. Suddenly, a loud bell rings in the firehouse. Uh-oh, it's the fire alarm. There's a fire in town. Gear up, Pete. The firefighters scramble into their gear very quickly. Pete puts on his gear too. They all climb aboard the fire truck and turn on the siren and lights. Firefighter Pete and the firefighters are on their way. The fire engine races through town and the lights flash round and round. A firefighter presses the horn. All the other cars move out of the way. There's the fire. It's hot and loud, but the firefighters know exactly what to do. They work together as a team to connect the fire truck to the fire hydrant. Then the firefighters also attach a long, heavy hose to the truck. Firefighter Pete gives the signal, and the firefighters turn on the water. Whoosh! The water gushes out very fast. Several firefighters must hold the hose to control it. Pete helps direct the hose as they spray the fire with water. The fire is starting to go out. There is smoke everywhere. Suddenly, Pete hears yelling from the roof. Oh no! It's Grumpy Toad! He needs to be rescued. The firefighters raise a long ladder from the truck. Crank, crank, crank. The ladder goes up and up and up. Firefighter Pete and another firefighter help Grumpy Toad climb down the ladder carefully. Yay! The fire is out and everyone is safe. The firefighters drive back to the firehouse. They take off all their gear. They pat Pete on the back and say, "Good job, Pete." Firefighter Pete helped save the day. Pete the Cat, Falling for Autumn, by Kimberly and James Dean. It is the first day of fall, and Pete the Cat is feeling blue. "I like summer better," he says. "In summer I can swim and surf and play at the beach." Maybe you just need to remind yourself of all the things you love about autumn, Mom suggests. Pete says. I'll try. Pete finds Grandma in the kitchen. She's baking delicious pumpkin pies. The whole house smells sweet and spicy. Pete loves helping Grandma bake pumpkin pie, but he loves helping eat it even more. After the baking is done, Pete picks a squat orange pumpkin from the counter and slips it into his backpack as a souvenir. Next, Pete heads to the town corn maze. Pete and his friends wander through the long, twisty paths made of tall corn stalks. The best part of the corn maze is getting lost and having to start over again. As he leaves, Pete plucks a golden corn cob from the maze and places it inside his backpack. Then Pete visits Grandpa, who is knitting on the porch. Grandpa helps Pete use the knitting needles to knit the yarn into cool patterns. Together, Pete and Grandpa make a long, cozy scarf for Pete to wear. When they're done, Pete chooses a little ball of leftover yarn and places it inside his backpack. Next, Pete goes to the hayride at the park. Pete, Bob, Mom, Dad, and Grandpa all pile into a wagon filled with hay. They go on a bumpy wagon ride around the park. Woohoo! Pete shouts. At the end of the ride, Pete grabs a handful of sweet-smelling hay from the wagon and stuffs it into his backpack. Pete heads over to the apple orchard where he and Callie go apple picking. They eat sweet apple donuts and drink hot apple cider and fill their buckets with apples of different shapes and sizes. Before he leaves, Pete chooses a round red apple and drops it into his backpack. Next, Pete stops by the park. He plays touch football with Bob and their friends. Pete scores a touchdown and everyone cheers. After the game, Pete grabs Bob's football and stuffs it into his backpack. It barely fits. Bob won't mind if I borrow this, Pete says. Finally, Pete heads back home, but he stops in his front yard, which is covered in bright leaves falling from the trees. Pete helps his dad rake the leaves into big, colorful mounds. Then, Pete runs and jumps into all the leaf piles. After he's done jumping, Pete picks a bunch of red and gold and orange leaves and stuffs them into his backpack. Pete's backpack is bursting with fall souvenirs. He can't wait to show Mom. I love autumn, Pete says. Wonderful, says Mom. You know, these would make great decorations for Thanksgiving. So Pete helps Mom fill a basket with all his mementos. They place the basket at the center of the table. You did a great job, Pete, says Mom. It's beautiful, says Dad. Is that my football? Asks Bob. Just then, the doorbell rings. The Thanksgiving guests are here. All of Pete's family and friends gather around the dining room table. They tell stories and laugh at jokes while they eat. Everyone is having a great time. Pete looks around the table and smiles. He loves lots of things about autumn, but Pete knows what he loves most all year long. His family and friends. Pete the Cat. Roll, Bo Pete. By James and Kimberly Dean. What a great sunny morning. Pete can't wait to play baseball with his friends. Do you want to play catch? Pete asks Larry. I can't, says Larry. I'm going to the library. Do you want to play catch? Pete asks Callie. I was about to go for a bike ride, says Callie. Do you want to play catch? Pete asks John. I can't right now, says John. I have to paint the fence. Pete wishes his friends would do what he wants to do. It's no fun playing catch all by himself. If only I knew another me, Pete thinks. And like that, Pete has a great idea. Pete builds a robot. He programs it to be just like him. Welcome to the world, Robo Pete, Pete says to the robot. You're my new best friend. We'll do everything together. And I want to play catch, says Pete. Great idea, says Robo Pete. Pete and Robo Pete play catch. Wow, says Pete, running after the ball. You sure can throw far. Robo Pete throws farther and farther until... Time out, says Pete as he tries to catch his breath. Let's play something else. I want to play whatever you want to play, Robo Pete says proudly. How about we play hide and seek, says Pete. That will be fun, says Robo Pete. Pete finds the best hiding place ever. He's sure Robo Pete will never find him. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, shouts Robo Pete. Ready or not, here I come. Gotcha, shouts Robo Pete, tagging Pete. Hey, how did you find me? Says Pete. With my homing device, says Robo Pete. I can find anyone, anywhere. Okay, enough hide and seek, says Pete. Let's play some guitar. Pete teaches Robo Pete how to play a song he made up. You have to feel the music, Pete explains. Okay, says Robo Pete. To feel it, I need to play loud, explains Robo Pete. Pete tries to stop Robo Pete, but Robo Pete can't hear him over the noise. This is fun, says Robo Pete. This is awful, says Pete the cat. Okay, says Robo Pete. Let's ride our skateboards instead. Before Pete can answer, Robo Pete's feet transform into a motorized skateboard with super speedy wheels. Let's go, Robo Pete shouts. Wait, calls Pete. Pete chases after Robo Pete. He has no idea where Robo Pete is going. Robo Pete crashes into the sandbox at the playground. Are you okay? Pete asks his robot. I am a robot. I am indestructible, says Robo Pete. What is this strange place? It's a playground, says Pete. He waves to his friends. This is Robo Pete, Pete says to Callie, Larry, and John. I made him myself. Cool, says Larry. We're going to help John finish painting, says Callie. And then we're going bike riding. I want to go on the slide, interrupts Robo Pete. Robo-Pete, I want to help my friends paint the fence, Pete tells his robot. Paint the fence, that would be great, Robo-Pete says. I am programmed to paint faster than anyone. Pete and his friends try to help, but Robo-Pete paints too fast. So instead, they ride bikes and they read books, and after Robo-Pete is done painting, they help him clean the brushes. Pete realizes that it doesn't matter what they do, just being with his friends is what makes it fun. Pete the Cat, Out of This World by James Dean. It's a great day. Pete the Cat is going to space camp. Pete meets his bunkmate, Glenn. As they unpack, there is an announcement. Welcome, space campers. Please head to the classroom. Your mission begins now. Time to suit up, says Pete. He and Glenn put on their uniforms and race to class. There are so many cool things to do and super neat stuff to see. Astronauts Tom and Chris talk about the trips they've taken, and they give a sneak peek at future space trips. It would be totally rad to go to space, says Pete. The campers find out what it feels like to be an astronaut. They go in the zero-gravity chamber. They ride in rovers. They even build rockets. Pete's rocket flies very, very far. Way to go, Pete! Shouts Glenn. Next stop is Mission Control. We have some exciting news, says Tom. Our next flight leaves today. We're going to the moon, and we have room for more. Pete, do you want to go? Asks Sally. That would be awesome, says Pete. It's time to buckle up and settle into the space capsule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff! Their ship speeds through space. They blast past a satellite and even spot a comet. Tom and Sally have a rockin' surprise for Pete, his guitar. He plays a groovy interstellar song for them. Mission Control listens in. In no time at all, they arrive on the moon. They are ready to explore. The astronauts collect rocks and map out the moon's surface. Pete has a very important job to do. He straps on a jetpack and heads toward Mars. He takes tons of pictures. Oh no! Pete lost track of time and the moon is far, far away. He has to make it back to the ship before it blasts off. Phew! Pete made it back in the nick of time. The astronauts head home, and there's time for a few more tunes. Pete sure knows how to make an entrance. Pete's trip to outer space was out of this world. Still, he's psyched to have his feet back on solid ground. Rock it on, Pete! The end. If you like this video, please subscribe for more. Thank you for watching.